Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Best Words. We've spoken in recent weeks about pending climate disaster. It is the height of recklessness now to be pursuing hydrocarbon growth in the face of what is ultimately a death spiral for the planet. And in light of this context, we're going to tell the story of Jessica Reznicek, a 38-year-old Iowa woman who was recently sentenced to 8 years in prison for sabotaging parts of the Dakota Access Pipeline.
All right, yeah, we'll go over a little bit of the history here. So what she did was she destroyed a part of the pipeline that was helping construct it, destroyed some valves and stuff like that. This was in 2016 and 2017. She did set fire to 5 pieces of heavy machinery that were constructing the pipeline. So she was finally sentenced to 8 years in prison just recently. And I believe she was also told to pay millions of dollars back in restitution. And, I'm pretty sure she's not a millionaire, so we'll see how that goes. Um, so this is a quote from Jessica Reznicek in regards to why she did what she did. She said, I think that the oil being taken out of the ground and the machinery that does it and the infrastructure which supports it, that this is violent. These tools and these mechanisms that industry and corporate power and government power have all colluded together to create. This is destructive, this is violent, and it needs to be stopped. That's a quote from Democracy Now! Um, Maybe we could talk just a little bit about the Dakota Access Pipeline, what it is, where the oil goes, where it starts. It's actually in North Dakota, and it's a shale oil production. So shale oil is a very, very destructive to the environment, more than crude oil in some ways because of the large amounts of fresh water that you need to drill. On top of that, there's greenhouse gas and CO2 emissions, of course. And then there's also the question of leaching toxic chemicals into the water supplies that are around it. Years ago we had that BP spill in the Gulf of Mexico, right? That must have been like 10 years ago now. So similar to that, the pipeline's going over thousands of miles to get down to the south in the United States. And over this entire period, if a leak happens, what can really be done about it? It's harsh on the environment if these things actually can get into water aquifers and stuff like that. So where Jessica Reznicek was coming from, I think she's, like you said, she's from Iowa. She was very worried about her water aquifers being poisoned and not being, usable. And really, ultimately, who would be responsible for that? Probably not the company that owns the Dakota Access Pipeline. They would look to the government to help with that restitution of damages. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple issues here. The first of which is sovereignty, tribal sovereignty. It's my understanding of this that they really have no right to be there with this pipeline. The people who live on those lands have asked repeatedly and gone through official channels to say we do not want this pipeline over not just our lands but our aquifers and our reservoirs, and that's a perfectly legitimate position to take. And it is a sin, and it is a 500-year-old story now that we are going to truck our poisons over basically native waters to avoid doing it to our own waters, and using native lands as effectively a toxic waste dumping ground. There is 100% chance that over the course of a medium-term time horizon, let's say 10 years, that oil from that aquifer gets in the water. It gets in the water. It's a factual certainty that that will happen, and it already has happened. In fact, um, it is. I think the prosecutors are in a tough place, okay, because this is industrial sabotage, and say I'm a federal prosecutor. I understand you cannot have people blowing up construction equipment. I get that. But it really never should have gotten this far. Like we said, the people who live on those lands had a right to stop this, and they went through formal channels and they exhausted every avenue trying to do this, quote unquote, the right way. And yet their wishes were ignored, and the capital rules, right? This is what big money wanted. This is what the oil industry wanted, and this is what the state government of North Dakota wanted. And so this is what was forced on people, and now they're backed into a corner and behaving desperately. I mean, Now look at, say, Flint, Michigan, right? Now if I live in a reservation in the Dakotas, what faith do I have that these people aren't going to poison my water? And if they do, they're going to clean it up immediately. Where we have, cities in the United States that have lead pipes and have had lead pipes for years. I mean, this is a life or death issue to them. Where are they going to go? We poison the water. They're just going to shower in poisoned water, right? They're going to drink poisoned water. They're going to cook in poisoned water. So, look, they were right to view this as extreme measures need to be taken. And it's a tough issue because this never should have gotten this far. I understand why prosecutors felt, they had to do something about this. You can't tolerate industrial sabotage, but our system has failed letting it get this far. And then I want to talk very briefly about the terrorist enhancement. They increased her sentence with a terrorism enhancement, um, because this was an act of terrorism. She did not hurt anybody. She went out of her way not to hurt anybody. But she attacked Capitol. The people who attacked the Capitol have not been hit by and large with terrorism enhancements. Um, the people who attacked our seat of government in what was a far more violent attack than is actually generally understood, and certainly that is portrayed in the right wing media, they're getting off with a slap on the wrist compared to this woman who only attacked equipment and did so um, in what I consider a service of a noble cause, right or wrong. I think she's still coming from a noble and dignified place, even though she broke the law.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear what you're saying. Um, the thing, yeah, she didn't hurt anybody, right? She was hurting capital, like you were saying. I do get why people can't do that. Okay, that should be against the law. Uh, where I stand on this, I think people should generally just stay as peaceful as they can when they want to protest these things. I think if they let the facts come out and just get it on the news, get people seeing what's actually going on, tell people the facts. If you stay peaceful, I know even though she didn't hurt people, it's still seen as a violent act because of what she did to the equipment. Obviously, I just think it would have been better off if she hadn't have done that. I do think that it's a little extreme that she's being given such a harsh sentence when, like you said, people were inside of our Capitol building, creating havoc. And honestly, it could have gone a lot worse than it did if certain things weren't in the right place. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a few. I don't know. Sorry.
Well, I mean, I just, they did kind of exhaust they did the right thing, with the Dakota Access Pipeline. The protesting powers, the people protesting the powers that be did the right thing for years, and those options were exhausted. I mean, now it was just industrial sabotage or nothing. And I
Yeah,
guess when you lose through all formal channels, the right answer is nothing. But
the right answer. Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, these companies don't care if they're affecting people's livelihoods at all. So it's like you said, like, what do you do? What do you do if if your water is poisoned? You just sit there and take it. Yeah, get cancer down the road. Don't do anything. Stay peaceful the entire time. I mean, that's what they want you to do, for sure. Because they've honestly these large corporations have really corrupted the government to the point where people can't fight back, even for something that as simple as water. And we were talking about water rights and things like that in one of our last episodes, and what a problem it's becoming. And this is just like a microcosm of it.
yeah, and you better hope that cancer doesn't hit till you're 65, or you're going bankrupt too.
Well, you got that to look forward to.
Yeah. So fracking is really horrible stuff. And 2012, 2013, when fracking technology boomed, and became a big deal in all official Beltway circles that America's energy production surpassed Saudi Arabia, surpassed Russia. We were the largest hydrocarbons producer in the world. We were the largest energy exporter in the world for a minute. And this was generally greeted as unambiguously positive news. And from a geopolitical perspective, I understand that. But, 8 years ago, nothing we were saying about the climate was new or surprising or even controversial. But realpolitik had to come first. This is one of Obama's great legacies: is that he juiced American hydrocarbon production through the roof, and
And also
fracking,
didn't get credit for it.
and didn't even get credit for it. Like they're never going to give you credit if you do things Republicans like. I mean, a lesson that Obama never learned, and Biden is kind of learned a little bit, maybe. But yeah, like don't do things to appease them. It's not going to work. What should have happened. Look, hindsight is 2020, and I'm not in the Oval Office, and I know these decisions are not as easy as I make them out to be. But aiding and abetting the end of civilization in the name of short-term profits and energy consumption is ultimately going to be a bad look. We're going to be judged very harshly by history, and should there be enough of a civilization left to write said history, this woman's going to go down in history as a hero.
Well, I guess we'll let time tell.